Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today I'll be doing a spoiler talk for The Last of Us Part 2. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to help support the channel. I love each and every one of you, and this is a quick reminder and a quick warning that if those of you who have not played The Last of Us Part 2 and have not beaten it yet, please exit this video now so that way you can avoid spoilers. But if you have beaten The Last of Us Part 2 and you know how the story plays out, welcome. And if you guys don't, particularly care for spoilers, hey, welcome too. But yeah, so The Last of Us Part 2, and I already told you guys this in the last video, which was the spoiler-free game review. The Last of Us Part 2 takes place 4 years later after the events of The Last of Us 1. And, we already know how, like, at the end of The Last of Us 1, it ended with Ellie and Joel being in Jackson, but since this is 4 years later after the event of Last of Us 1, Ellie and Joel have settled down in Jackson, Wyoming. You also meet these two new characters named Jesse and Dina. And you also have Tommy who's returned because Tommy was in the first game, so he's back in this game as well. And Maria, who was Tommy's wife, she is back for this game as well because, I mean, they were all in the first game. So yeah, so the journey continues with Ellie and Joel, or should I say just Ellie, because pretty early on in the game, like 2 hours into the game actually, Joel dies, and he gets killed by this girl named Abby. He literally just gets shot in the knee, then literally gets restrained, and they put a tourniquet on his leg. Where, like, cause he got shot in the knee with the shotgun, and it was pretty brutal. Like, literally, his whole knee was like shattered. Like, there was barely anything left. But yeah, he gets shot in the leg with the shotgun, and then he gets beaten by a golf club in the head by Abby. And she's this girl that you actually play for a while at the beginning of the game, like after you play as Ellie for a while. Because it kept cutting back. It kept cutting from Ellie to Abby, and then back to Ellie, then back to Abby again. Because Abby, since she's the person who killed Joel, Ellie's gonna come after her. Because what happens is that they don't know, Ellie, Jesse, and Dina, they have no idea where Tommy or Joel are at. So Jesse, Ellie, and Dina, they split up to go find them. Then Ellie, she actually finally finds them, but then she goes downstairs, she just finds Abby just beating Joel with the golf club. And then she was like, please don't do this, please stop. And then Abby takes one final swing with the golf club and hits Joel in the head, and Joel dies. And I was shocked, man. And I actually recorded that scene. That scene was actually in part 3 of my gameplay walkthrough series of The Last of Us Part 2. And you guys saw how I was crying. I was angry. Like, I was like, no, I know they didn't just do that. And then what happens is that, Tommy shows up at Ellie's house, at her home, and he's like, we got to do this smart. And then Ellie was like, why don't you want to, go back, go after these people? Because Maria, Tommy's wife, kind of got to Tommy's head, saying, like, she basically told Tommy, like, don't go after these people. But, Tommy, he wants to go after these people because that was his brother. So then he was like, you know what, she was like, what, screw it, I want to go with you. And then he said, let's see if I can, find some people that can join us. But then what happens is that it just cuts to the cemetery and you just see Joel's grave. And I'm like, yo, they really did it though. So what happens is that after that, you show up at Joel's house and you just see how there's flowers and letters, to pay their respects. And Ellie goes into Joel's house to explore for a while, and, to be in his house for one last time before she leaves to go to Seattle. Because Seattle is actually where these people are located at. The people who killed Joel, they're actually in Seattle. So then what happens is that, So what happens is that Ellie, she's in Joel's house. She just looks at all his stuff. She sniffs his jacket because, his smell was still on it. and she sees the photo of Joel and his daughter Sarah, and what happens is that she goes into Joel's room and she gets his revolver that he used in the first game. So yeah, she gets his gun. And then you also saw how Joel, he was actually, before he died, he was actually making guitars, because you could just see all the guitars that were in one of his rooms that he had made. But yeah, so then Maria shows up and she tells Dina and Ellie that Tommy had already left to go after these people that had killed him, that had killed Joel. And so what happens is that Maria, she asks them, please bring back she says, please bring back Tommy in one piece. And then Ellie's like, okay. And so did Dina. She said that. She was like, thank you for Maria for letting us go after these people, because Maria, she actually helped him out. She got him a horse. She got him some ammo. And yeah, so she, helped him out. So Ellie and Dina, they go to Seattle. And you're actually in Seattle for 3 days, because it's actually Seattle day 1, day 2, and then day 3. And then what happens is that, Ellie and Dina, they actually get ambushed. And Ellie actually kills one of the people who took part in the killing of Joel. And so she kills one of them. And then what happens is that later on, Ellie and Dina, they run into some infected, take a few of them down. And there's a horde of infected, another one. So what happens is that they go to this movie theater to lay low, and Dina actually tells Ellie that she's pregnant. And you know how Dina basically, became a burden to Ellie, when she said that. Then after that happened, it's a flashback scene between Joel and Ellie when Ellie was a little bit younger. And it showed them like a good time that Ellie and Joel had, a few years before Joel had got killed. It was a very special moment. They were at a museum because, Ellie, she loves space. So Joel took her to a museum, a space museum. Well, it was actually just a museum, but it had a space part in it. So what happens is that they go into the capsule that, astronauts, use to go into space. And then he gives her like this tape that has astronaut, sound effects, like how they do a countdown when how like when they do a countdown when a rocket is getting ready to blast off, where they do the countdown. And it was a pretty cool moment. Like, he gave her a great time. It just shows that, before everything had happened, it just shows all the good times that they had before, everything had went down with Joel dying and, this whole revenge journey. But, let's see, what happens after that? So what happens is that Ellie, she goes back out in Seattle day 2, and she continues on, like, killing more WLF soldiers, because the WLF is the group that the people who killed Joel, like, the people who killed Joel, that's their group. They're called the WLF. That's where they're from Seattle. So Ellie's just killing more WLF soldiers to try to get, still go after the people, and she continues on without Dina. So Dina's just left back at the theater since she's pregnant. So Ellie just, just left her there, to keep her safe. And then what happens is that there's this guy who comes out of nowhere, grabs Ellie and tells her to shush and be quiet. And when Ellie turns around, that guy is actually Jesse. So Jesse actually meets up with them. He's helping Ellie out, take down these WLF soldiers, and they're killing more infected. And then basically what happens in Seattle day 3, the next day, is that Ellie and Jesse, they go back out into Seattle. They go... Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot. Hold on. Let me rewind. So what happens is that Ellie, after she meets up with Jesse, after they go to the movie theater, Ellie actually goes back out in Seattle day 2. And what happens is that Ellie goes to the hospital, and she finds this girl, Nora. And Nora was actually one of the people who were involved in Joel's murder. So then Ellie, she chases after her. Nora gets infected by spores, so before, Nora dies, Ellie just beats the crap out of Nora in order to get information out of her to tell Ellie where Abby is, because you know how Ellie is going after Abby because Abby's actually the one who killed Joel. So then Ellie gets information out of Nora, and after she does that, Ellie just kills Nora right after that. And then what happens after that is that Ellie goes back to the movie theater. Then it moves on to Seattle Day 3. Then Ellie and Jesse go back out into Seattle, and they try to go to the aquarium because the aquarium is actually where Abby is at. So what happens is that they try to go to the aquarium, but when they're starting to get closer and closer to the aquarium, Jesse's like, okay, wait a minute, because we heard one of the radio conversations on them talking about a sniper killing off more WLF soldiers. And then Jesse is like, maybe that's Tommy that they're talking about. But then Ellie was like, no, you know what? Tommy can take care of himself. Let's still go after Abby. But then Jesse's like, no. So then what happens is that they split up, and Jesse was like, you know what? I really hope you make it. Then he just leaves Ellie, and he just goes looking for Tommy, but Ellie is still going after Abby. So what happens is that after all that happens, Ellie is just caught in the middle of a storm. You had to get past the storm, and you actually make it to the aquarium. But it turns out Abby is actually not there at the aquarium, but instead, Abby's boyfriend is there with this girl named Mel. So technically, Owen technically kind of cheated on Abby, sort of. But technically, they really weren't boyfriend and girlfriend, so technically, it's not really like cheating. But what he did is that this guy named Owen, he's, you know, Abby's sort of lover. He accidentally gets this girl named Mel pregnant. And they talk about that very early on in the game. Like, at the very beginning of the game, Owen tells Abby that Mel is pregnant. And this is before they kill Joel. And so the pregnant girlfriend, Mel, is there. And they're at the aquarium, and she's with Owen. Then Ellie, she finds Owen and Mel. And what happens is that, you know, she tries to interrogate them to tell her where Abby's at. But then Mel, she just goes ahead and tries to tell her where Abby's at. But Owen's like, wait a minute, don't do that. And then he was like, we can just talk this out without, you know, having anyone get hurt. So what happens is that he tries to take the gun from Ellie. Ellie just punches Owen. Then she shoots Owen. And then what happens is that the pregnant girlfriend, Mel, she literally just takes her knife out, tries to attack Ellie with the knife. And then what happens is that it's so brutal. So then what happens is that Ellie, she gets the knife from Mel, and she stabs Mel in the throat, which was, to me, was like really brutal. But the thing is that Owen, he says his last words. You can't really hear him, but if you have headphones on while you're playing this game, you can actually hear what he was saying. But you can't hear what he was saying in the subtitles, though. You can't, it doesn't tell you what he was saying, but you can hear what he was saying as he took his dying breath. Okay, hold on. Okay, sorry about this, guys. Okay, so what was I saying? Okay. I'm sorry, I kind of forgot what I was saying for a second. But what happens is that, you know, she stabs her at Mel in the throat. Owen is trying to tell Ellie, he says she's pregnant. So then what happens is that Ellie, she like unzips Mel's coat, and you just see the bump on her stomach. And it kind of just made you feel dirty, though, because they actually kind of had to make you technically killed Mel and Owen. So Ellie is just kind of like freaking out after she kills Mel because she killed because Ellie, you know, she killed a pregnant woman, and that just technically reminded her of Dina because Dina's also pregnant. So she kind of has a little bit of a freak out moment. She you know, starts, you know, feeling, you know, sick. Like, she was like, I can't believe I really did this. And then what happens is that this guy comes out of nowhere, and it was actually Tommy, and Tommy's the person that they're looking for. You know, that's Joel's brother, who was also in the first game. So Tommy, he's there because Jesse actually found Tommy, and they make it to the aquarium, and they find Ellie, and then they take her back to the movie theater. But then Ellie, she accidentally drops her map. So what happens is that later on, the girl that Ellie is looking for, Abby actually finds Tommy, Ellie, and Jesse. So she actually finds them at the movie theater. She starts beating up Tommy, and then another crazy moment happened when Ellie and Jesse were trying to see what was up because they heard a noise and they heard, you know, someone beating up Tommy. So as they're like going through the door, Abby literally shoots Jesse in the face and Jesse dies. And I was like, yo, like, I was like, no, like, I didn't think that they were gonna do that though, because, you know, Jesse was a whole new character, so I didn't really think they were gonna kill him off in this game. But you know, I got attached to him, man, because Jesse was actually a cool character though. But Jesse gets killed by Abby, and Abby just has Ellie at gunpoint, and then it moves on to a younger Abby 4 years earlier. Then you play as Abby when she's younger, because it's a flashback scene, and then you actually find out that the doctor that Joel killed was actually Abby's father. So and it explains why Abby killed Joel, because Joel killed Abby's father. So then what happens after that, you know, you go, you do the Seattle day 1, day 2, day 3 thing, just like with Ellie, except you're doing it with Abby. And then Abby, throughout these, you know, 3 days, she runs into these Seraphites called Yara and Lev. And if you guys, that's another thing I didn't mention. The Seraphites are actually the enemies that Abby's group, the WLF, are against, because the WLF and the Scars, also known as the Seraphites, they're literally going at war. So yeah, it's an all-out war between the WLF and the Seraphites, and yeah, the two of those groups are literally going at war, and those are Abby's enemies. So yeah, the Seraphites are actually Abby's enemies and her group's enemies. So what happens is that, you know, Abby, she gets captured by the Seraphites, and she gets captured by them, but then she gets saved by this girl, these two people named Yara and Lev. But then, you know, one of the Seraphites almost kills Yara, so then Abby, she literally kills that person, that Seraphite. She actually kills that Seraphite, and then, well, she didn't kill her, but she was, like, suffocating her, and then Yara just killed her. And then Yara told this person named Lev, she told Lev to let Abby go, like, let her down, because she saved, you know, because she helped her out. Because, you know, the Seraphites are actually trying to kill Yara and Lev, but, you know, Yara and Lev are actually from the Seraphites. Like, that's their group. So what happens is that, you know, Abby ends up teaming up with Seraphites, Yara and Lev, but then what happens is that Yara, you know, her arm got smashed by a hammer, so they had to do surgery on her arm. Then you're working with Lev to get the supplies for her. And then what happens is that Lev actually leaves Abby and Lev and Abby's friends Mel and Owen, because, you know, it's a flashback scene. So this is before Owen and Mel got killed. So what happens is that Lev, she leaves them to go after their mother. And that's another thing I didn't mention. The thing about Lev is that Lev is actually a transgender character. Because you can actually hear how, like, the Seraphites, what they would do is that they would call her Lily instead of Lev, because at first she was a girl, and then what happens is that because the thing about the Seraphites is that the Seraphites, they're a religious group, and they thought that was a sin of how, Lev had shaved her head to be like one of the men. So then they try to kill her because of that, because they thought it was a sin. And the mother thinks that it was a sin of how Lev has shaved her head like one of the men. So then, you know, what happens is that you have to go after Lev because Lev runs away. And you go to this island where the Seraphites are actually at, and the WLF soldiers are actually going to the island as well because they're at war with them. So then you find Lev. You find Lev's mother dead because Lev's mother was trying to kill her, was like trying to chase her, and then Lev like used self-defense, and she accidentally killed her mother. So what happens is that later on, as they're trying to escape from the island because they got Lev back, what happens is that Yara ends up getting killed by a WLF soldier, because you know how the WLF are at war with the Seraphites. So a WLF soldier kills her, then Abby literally just takes down that WLF soldier that had killed Yara, and but Abby basically goes against her own group, and she starts killing them, and they get away. Like the leader named Isaac, what happens is that he's actually the leader of the WLF. So he tries to kill Abby and he tries to kill Lev. But then what happens is that Yara actually ends up killing him with a bit of life left, because Yara, she was literally on her last, on her last breath. So what happens is that she used that last bit of energy she had in her. She killed Isaac in order to help Abby and Lev get away. And then Yara actually gets killed because the WLF, it's a whole bunch of soldiers there. So like they literally just shoot her up. Like it's a whole bunch of them. All of them are literally just shooting at her. They just shoot her all at once. Like they lit her up though. But what happens is that Abby and Lev, they escape the island. And then Abby, she finds Owen and Mel dead because Ellie was the one who killed Owen and Mel. So then it shows how Abby was able to find Ellie at the movie theater, because Ellie had dropped her map, and that's how Abby was able to find her. So Lev and Abby, they go to the movie theater, and this is actually the gameplay footage you see now of how they're actually at the movie theater. And they make it to the movie theater, and what happens is just so crazy. Like, you literally had to fight against Ellie playing as Abby. And I hated how they made you do that though. Because it's like a lot of people didn't want to play as this girl. Like, because she's the one who killed Joel, and now they're trying to make you play as her and fight against Ellie, who is the person that you're actually, the person that's that you're actually on the side of. Like, you're actually on Ellie's side instead of Abby's side. So they basically made you go against Ellie, and then you almost kill Ellie, but like Abby actually spares Ellie. Dina tried to kill Abby, but Lev shot her with the arrow, and then Abby tried to kill Dina. She was going to kill Dina, but Ellie told her don't do it because she's pregnant, and then Abby said good, and then she was getting ready to slit Dina's throat. And the reason why she was about to kill Dina, and even though you already know that Dina's pregnant, is because of how Ellie had killed Mel, and she was pregnant. So Abby thought it would be cool if she killed Dina, and and she knows that she's pregnant, so she just thought it would be cool to kill Dina. Because it's basically like, like baby for a baby. Like, you killed my pregnant friend. Like, you basically killed my pregnant friend, and now gonna kill your pregnant girlfriend. That's basically what Abby was saying. I mean, she didn't, but that's what she was getting ready to do. So, Abby, Lev tells Abby don't kill her because it's not right. So then Abby, she actually spares Ellie and Dina. And then it moves on to a time jump happens, and they don't tell you how long after how long after it takes place. Like, they don't tell you how many years it takes place after that. So what happens is that you're literally on a farm, and Dina actually gave birth to her baby, and the baby is like, I believe a year old, I believe. Because it's been confirmed that it actually takes place a year later after all that had happened in Seattle. Because as you guys are seeing right now, you guys can see of how they're on the farm in the gameplay footage as you're seeing like right now. They're on the farm, and this actually takes place a year later because it was actually confirmed. And Ellie is now 20 years old now. And, you know, she's a new, like, she's basically a stepmom. And, because that was another thing. That's technically, you know, that's Jesse's kid. Because before Dina had got with Ellie, Jesse and Dina were actually a couple. And Jesse had got Dina pregnant. But, you know, since Jesse died, he never got to see his son. So now what's happening is that Dina and Ellie, they're taking care of him. The baby's name is actually JJ, and they're taking care of him. And what happens is that Tommy is actually still alive, because you saw how Abby, she had shot Tommy in the face, and we all thought that Tommy had died, but actually he didn't die at the movie theater. He's actually still alive. So he shows up at, you know, Ellie and Dina's house. And he's like, you know, one of my people saw, you know, Abby, and they made a trade with her, and they found her in Santa Barbara. So Tommy's basically telling Ellie, like, go after her. But then Ellie's like, you know what, I can't, because I got to deal with JJ. I got to help him, like, raise him with Dina. Like, Ellie's, like, living a good life now, and she doesn't want to give that up. But the thing is, like, Ellie, she gets PTSD because she can't stop thinking. Hold on, wait a minute, hold on. Because she can't stop thinking about Joel dying. So Ellie gets PTSD. And what happens is that, you know what, Ellie's like, you know what, I'm going to go after Abby still. So then what happens is that, you know, it cuts right back to Abby. You're playing as Abby again. And then Abby is looking for more fireflies because Owen, Abby's lover, ex-boyfriend, before he got killed, he said that on Santa Barbara there were more fireflies. And that's another thing. Like, Abby and Owen and the rest of their friends that you saw in this game, they were all fireflies. But, you know, after, you know, the fireflies had all been killed, what happened is that, you know, they joined the WLF a few years after all the fireflies have been killed. So, Owen, Mel, Nora, and Manny. Manny was also one of Abby's friends. He got killed by Tommy. But all of them, they were all fireflies before they joined the WLF. But, you know, since there are no more fireflies, they are no longer fireflies. But what's happening is that Abby is trying to look for the fireflies that are on Santa Barbara, because that's what Owen had told her before he died. And so what happens is that, you know, the Lev and Abby, they're looking for more fireflies, but they actually end up getting captured by this group called the Rattlers. And then it cuts right back to Ellie. You're playing as Ellie, and you're still trying to find Abby to kill her. So then what happens is that you finally find Abby. And I'm actually gonna, like, pull it up for you guys, like, right here. So you find Abby, and then you fight her again. I don't know what's going on. Okay, I think I got it. Alright, so what's happening is that, like, you're fighting. There's Abby right. Oh, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But what's happening is that you find Abby, She lost all of her muscles because she's no longer on the steroids anymore because she's been captured for months. And you see how she's all skinny. Her hair is cut. Her hair is like a whole lot shorter. And so what happens is that they're on the beach. And, you know, Ellie and Abby, they just go at it. But then the thing is like, we all thought that Ellie was going to kill Abby. But she didn't. And honestly, I can see why some people didn't like this game. But a lot of people did like this game. But like the thing is, like, it's like I said, this game is... Oh my god, get off my screen! Get off my screen, man. I want to see you. But anyways, what's going on is that, like, you know, before this game had came out, you know how some of the spoilers had dropped. But the whole game was not leaked. So, you know, people who already saw the leaks, they got the game. And some of them still didn't like it, but some of them did like it, though. Because it's like I said, this game is truly meant for open-minded people. And I'm actually myself an open-minded person. Like, I'm actually an open-minded person. Because some closed-minded people are not going to like this game. Because, you know, how, you know, they brought a few political subjects into this game. Like, you know, on, you know, transgenders and, you know, lesbianism. Like, you know, all that type of stuff. That's why some people didn't like the game. But people were literally just hating on it. And there were a lot of people who were being homophobic and transphobic about, you know, some of the subjects in this game. Just to be jerks on purpose because the story didn't go their way. Like, that's the only reason why people were hating on this game, was because the story didn't go their way. And, like, number one, the main reason why a lot of people didn't like the game was because how Joel dies. That was basically it. Like, that was the main number one reason why people didn't like this game. But, you know, a whole lot of critics, they gave it a perfect score. A whole lot, like IGN, they gave it a 10 out of 10. GameSpot gave it a 10 out of 10. Like, every critic known to man, like, that, like, every critic that you know about, like IGN, GameSpot, all those type of critics, they all gave it a 10 out of 10. They all gave The Last of Us Part 2 a 10 out of 10. Because they thought it was a masterpiece. And it is. It's actually a true masterpiece. In my opinion, it is. Like, 50% of people who are just regular people, just regular gamers, like, 50% of them didn't like the game, but the other 50% loved this game. Like, this game divided fans. That's what it did. It truly divided fans. Where it had 50% of people didn't like the game, and the other 50% of people loved the game. And I'm actually part of the 50% of people who loved this game. Like, in my opinion, personally, I loved this game. And you guys saw how in the game review, I gave it a perfect score. I gave it a 10 out of 10. And in my opinion, it needs to win Game of the Year. It just needs to. Because they went all out with this story. And I just love and I appreciate how they made, you know, those bold moves for this story. Like, I was just impressed by the graphics, the story, the character development. Everything about this game I loved. I just loved this game. It was perfect. But what happens is that, you know, Ellie doesn't kill Abby. And as you guys just saw, Ellie just let Abby go. As you guys can see the gameplay footage right now. Because, you know, Ellie was like, you know what, if I just kill Abby, it's not going to solve anything. Like, basically, when Ellie let Abby go, Ellie basically just ended the circle of violence. But the thing is that Dina, before Ellie left, Dina told her that please stay with me and JJ. But then Ellie was like, no, I had to go get her. I had to go kill Abby. So basically what happens, Ellie returns home after, you know, beating up Abby. So after, you know, Ellie had let Abby go, Ellie returns home to where Dina and JJ were at. But when she enters her home, you notice how everything is gone. Like, the whole house is cleared out. And Dina and JJ, they both left Ellie. They're gone. Because you guys can see how, like, there's nothing left. Like, they left. And this game truly shows you how, like, Ellie's decisions will always have consequences. And every consequences will always have a it will also have, it will also have a cause, And that's just like, in general, in reality, of how, like, every decision you make will always have a cost. And that's what cost Ellie everything. Because Ellie wanted to go after Abby, it cost Ellie's friendship with Tommy. It cost, Jesse getting killed. It also cost Dina and JJ leaving Ellie. Like I said, because when Ellie was going on this journey to kill Abby, she was literally putting more people in harm's way. Because it's like I said, every action always has a consequence, and it will always have a cost. But the true meaning of this game is, like, forgiveness, and, like, revenge is basically bad, because it's like, it won't solve anything. Like, it's just a whole cycle of violence that just continues on. And if Ellie did kill Abby, then that means Lev would have tried to kill Abby. Like, that means Lev would have tried to kill Ellie. And, like, the cycle of violence would never end. But then, they show one final scene of Joel and Ellie, and it shows you how Ellie actually tried to forgive Joel for what he did. And it truly shows you how, like, they try to take a step forward in the relationship. How, like, you guys can see right now how she says she would like to try. But, like, I'm kind of relieved. Hold on, wait a minute, hold on. But, guys, like, I'm kind of relieved. Like, I'm very relieved that she tried to forgive him. And they didn't end the relationship, like, on bad terms. Like, it showed how, like, they were trying to, forgive you. Like, it shows how, like, Ellie was trying to forgive Joel. And that's the whole point of this game. Like, this game is about forgiveness. Like, that's one of the true meanings of this game. On how, like, how Ellie knows why, Abby did what she did. And it just, I'm lost at words, as you guys can see right now, because, like, this game is just, it just has so many unexpected turns in this, in the story, but I loved them. Like, I really loved this story for The Last of Us Part 2. It was great. Although, I mean, the ending at first, I didn't like the ending at first, but I just kept thinking about the ending. And then I was like, okay, wait a minute. This actually makes sense on why they would end it like this. So then what happens is that, after that flashback scene with the, with Ellie being with Joel one final time, because it showed Ellie's last words that she said to Joel. And what happens is that it cuts right back to present day, and you just saw how Ellie left the guitar behind, and that's actually Joel's guitar, and she left it behind because she's basically laying Joel to rest. Like, she's basically laying the memory of Joel to rest, and she's like, letting him, rest in peace now. Because now it shows how Ellie has come to terms, like, you know what, like, I'm just gonna have to accept it. But yeah, so like that's what happens. Is that, you know, Ellie, she leaves his guitar behind. She's basically leaving his legacy behind, like his memory behind, and then she just leaves to go live a new life, and that's the end of the game. But honestly, guys, I really want a Last of Us Part 3. Leave it down in the comment section below if you guys want a Last of Us Part 3. Thank you guys so much for watching the spoiler talk video. Because I really wanted to talk about this. And honestly, here's another thing, guys. Like, I don't like the fact of how people were sending Laura Bailey, and Laura Bailey is actually the girl, is actually the woman who plays as Abby in The Last of Us Part 2. Like, people were sending her death threats, and honestly, don't send her death threats because she was just doing her job. And it's not like she wrote the story, so it's like, don't blame her for playing a fictional character that killed another fictional character. Like, it's not real. So it's like, just don't start doing that by sending her death threats, because she didn't deserve it. And honestly, Laura Bailey, you did a great job playing as Abby. Same thing with Ashley Johnson. She did a great job playing as Ellie again, you know, and with Troy Baker, he did a good job playing as Joel again. Like, everybody in this game just did a phenomenal job with the acting. And, like, thank you, Neil Druckmann, for giving us such a great game. Like, thank you so much. I really hope, you know, you guys, you know, can create a part 3 for all of us fans of this franchise so far. But yeah, but thank you guys so much for watching the spoiler talk video. I really appreciate it, you guys. And if you guys always want to check out my gameplay walkthrough of The Last of Us Part 2, I have created a playlist. But, you know, if you guys don't want to look at the playlist, if you just want to look at the video separately, that's fine by me. Like I said, it's up to you. But if you guys just want to watch the whole gameplay walkthrough in like one whole, you know, one whole like playlist, you guys can, because I have created one for you guys. But yeah, but thank you guys so much for watching the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I love each and every one of you, and leave it down in the comment section below. What did you guys think of the Last Part 2 stories? Did you enjoy it? What did you think about it? And as always, if you want to help support the channel, hit that subscribe button. And yeah, I love each and every one of you, and stay safe, guys. And later on, I will be uploading some more videos later on today. But anyways, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright, see you guys, and peace out. And stay safe out there.